Solar is for everyone because it's a service industry. It's not just technical. You need people skills. You need to have empathy. You need to understand what a customer doesn't understand so you can help them along the journey if they're having a problem. That's why I say solar is for everyone, because it's not always just about slapping modules or doing electrical work. It's permitting, it's policy, it's interpreting things so that the general public and the end consumer can actually understand.
The evolution of the workforce in the solar industry is a conversation that seems to be 3, 4, 5 panels at every conference that I attend. And the Midwest Solar Expo is no different. I'm here live at the Suncast Media Zone, brought to you by Solar Simplified. My name is Nico Johnson. I'm joined by Emmitt Muckles, who is the Program Director for Residential Operations Training at Omnidian. And Emmitt, you are on a number of panels here at the show that I find intriguing. Of course, everyone wants to talk about workforce development. We also want to talk a little bit about AI, but you are fond of saying solar is for everybody. Can you help me understand what you mean by that?
Well, one of the big components, for instance, I work for Omnidian. Omnidian doesn't necessarily choose solar veterans to bring on board. What they choose to do is develop those people through acclimation of skills. That's where I come in, where you have to identify where someone is for the job they need to do. Solar is for everyone. It is because it's a service industry. It's not just technical. You need people skills. You need to have empathy. You need to understand what a customer doesn't understand so you can help them along the journey if they're having a problem. And that's why I say solar is for everyone, because it's not always just about slapping modules or doing electrical work. It's permitting, it's policy, it's interpreting things so that the general public and the end consumer can actually understand.
And it's also marketing and storytelling, as we talk about all the time.
There's so many layers to it because it is a business in America. We know that it kind of started in California with the transplants from San Francisco. We just want to run our tape deck so we can listen to the Grateful Dead.
That's right.
But now it's an industry and it's across the country.
Yeah. One of the things that I find that folks don't realize is just the breadth of job opportunities in the solar industry. You work for Omnidian, one of the preeminent platforms for operations and maintenance. I would argue that most people don't realize that we've gotten to the scale now that we can aggregate O&M and that there are a plethora of jobs. Folks can start their own O&M business. They can work with Omnidian and get their pipeline filled the same way you might through Uber as a car driver, right? It's interesting the way that technology has really enabled new job creation in this sector. What gets you excited about the operations and maintenance side of the business?
Well, I was a trainer at Fronius, but in order to stay current with things, you need to talk to the customers. So I was on the troubleshooting side as well. Back then, I would have customers that called and said, hey, my installer has gone out of business. Can you guys send someone out? Well, we're in Indiana. We can't just send someone to San Diego from the office to tweak something. We would ask them, hey, can you call in an electrician and get them to call it? Then I will walk them through. Well, when Omnidian opportunity came up, it was a no-brainer for me because this is something that the industry needs. Now, here's a caveat to that. You could be a relatively new solar installer, maybe 2 years in.
Yeah.
Now, if you're in an aged market or a legacy market, there are customers who need your help just to maintain that system. And they don't know where to go. So that's where the marketing comes in. You could have a friend who's good at marketing, Instagram, Facebook.
Yeah.
You could have a friend who's good with computers. They could do all your paperwork.
Yeah.
You can create a business within your network because you have acquired one skill.
What do you see as a common bond between the 50s and 60s and today?
Well, the biggest thing is the trades. When my dad and my uncles came from the South, they were coming to Detroit and Chicago because there were skilled trades jobs available.
Yeah.
And those corporations were offering an inroad for that. I don't see it as much, but solar is the new skilled trades.
Right.
Where you can start with a company with literally no skills, just knowing some math or understanding some math, get the necessary training and have an apprenticeship. There's also the IBEW, they have programs.
Right.
But everybody can't go to college. Everybody can't be an administrator. America was built with our hands.
Yeah.
And we still need that, and it's available to you.
We mentioned a bit that that it is a tie to the labor force. How do you see specifically the operations and maintenance side as a part of or attached to the sort of history of labor in America?
So you have to think about it. This country, from my perspective, I'm a Detroit native. Everything I see through the lens of automotive.
Yeah.
Automotive, and if you look at the scale of it, there's the front end, there's the building it. That's providing job. Then there's a sale of the vehicle.
Yeah.
But that's not the end of it. One of the biggest profit makers in automotive is the service side. Is the after the sales service.
Yes.
That has to be done. Let's say, for instance, you're in Florida. You get hurricanes after the sales service.
Right.
You get hailstorms somewhere after the sales service. You get foliage after the sales service. So the O&M is a crucial point for the long-term longevity of this industry.
Yeah, it's one of the things I like about O&M as well. I worked for a roofing company, and a lot of folks don't know this, but extreme weather, rain, etc., is the lifeblood of the roofing industry.
Yeah.
It's not new roofs, it's roof repairs, the O&M, the maintenance that comes in particular from the commercial roof space that really provides the profit margin and in many ways the sort of the lifeblood of the continued service and maintenance of those facilities. And I think that that's one of the things that certainly over the last 5+ years with SAMNA and some of these other conferences, Omnidian and platforms like Omnidian coming on board, that folks are starting to wake up to the reality. You don't just set it and forget it and install that plant, right? Let's talk about the always on home and the introduction the electrification of the home, and even you're on a panel on AI. Talk to me about the technological advancements we're seeing now that homeowners can benefit from, but that as an installation industry, we need to really ingest and understand how to service better.
Well, if we go back to the 50s, you had a light bulb, possibly a television, a radio in the early 50s. As we evolved, we had more items, but they were manually cut off. You literally had a disconnect switch that disconnected you from the electricity. Now we have these things called smart switching power supplies that are in all of our appliances. So your appliance is always on. It's just waiting for a little radio signal that says, or for you to touch something that says turn on fully. So you're always ingesting energy where years ago you weren't. A lot of people don't understand that. They just think, hey, I turned my TV off.
Yeah.
Or why is my bill increasing because I got a room full of Google lights? Those lights are still on.
Yeah.
This is where AI comes into play, because now AI is monitoring your home with things like Google Nest, with Alexa. You can actually see what's happening with your home real time. For instance, I have teenagers, so my house is wired, so I can just cut off their power to their computer at a particular time. But it's important to understand that the homes are going to get smarter. You have span panels, you have lumen panels. What I mean by that is where your breakers typically go.
Yeah.
So it's important for us to acclimate our mindset that our homes are always on and are getting smarter, but we have to be aware of that to conserve energy at some point.
Is there anything about the O&M space that you feel folks are not really, you constantly have to explain, or a corner around which you're looking that you're constantly telling installers, you got to pay attention to this?
Like Malcolm Gladwell said, there's tipping points to things. And we haven't hit a tipping point because we drove the narrative different when solar was being ingrained. It was a set it and forget it.
That's right. No moving parts.
Yeah, that initial ideology still permeates the culture of renewable energy.
That's right.
Until we can change that narrative for the public, that's when we will be able to really understand, and the public can embrace O&M, C&I. And then on the other side, what I'm seeing now as far as like commercial applications are following what residential did, where they're getting energy storage for community solar, things of this nature. I could talk about this all day.
Please, please keep going.
But it's an awareness. We have to be aware. If you think about it, and probably in your home, you could run with a PV system and a battery if you were aware. You could be grid independent while still having the grid as a backup. But you have to be aware about this, and the public needs to be aware that we can be our own energy source or provide our own energy, but we also have to be conscious of the energy that we use, and we're not just greedily and being comfortable like just flipping things on and flipping things off. And this is a whole thing that solar energy for consumers. It's a website that I started because I see that there is a need to educate the public on what solar doesn't do, and simple things like how to read your utility bill.
Yeah.
I polled my friends on Facebook, how many people know how to read their utility bill? They say, I just get it and pay it.
Yeah. It's a need. It's a necessity.
It's a necessity.
Yeah. It doesn't really matter what the utility bill tells you. Very few even call the utility to challenge it.
They don't, because they don't understand the language. They don't understand tariffs. They don't understand peak energy times. All this is built in, and it's right there for you to see, but you have to know how to look at it. And that's where my passion lies, is to helping people understand this industry so that we can have a fruitful future for our kids and our families, no matter what the situation.
What was that website again?
Solar energy for consumers.
Solar energy for consumers.
Yeah, I bought the domain.
I'm gonna have to check that out. It is time to educate those consumers, and it's time for you to educate yourself. If you're running a business or you've thought about getting into the solar industry, is never a better time than now. The whole idea around workforce development is that we don't just have everyone trading horses on the merry-go-round, right? Poaching from inside the industry. We don't create our own inflation by hiring someone from this company to manage the same thing I need at my company. We plan the same way Omnidian does to develop those folks from outside the industry. And I think that you guys do a phenomenal job. And it's leaders like you in the industry communicating this opportunity that really will help bring more and more folks into the sector. Thank you, Emmitt, for the work that you're doing.
Thank you.
And thank you for taking time to join us here at the Suncast Media Zone. We're live at Midwest Solar Expo, brought to you by Simplified Solar. We'll see you again soon.